This was put forth by our board here of topics to discuss. The in season tournaments. The title I came up with on the screen here is "Do in season tournaments cheapen the product?" Which is I think where we were going with the kind of pre communication we were doing. But kind of as a jumping off point, the Four Nations face off is going on. I don't care. I don't know how many people care. We also have the NBA Cup, which has become a thing now. And again, I don't care. I know that that's a terrible kind of setting the stage for a talking point, but I think it is kind of the basis of these in season tournaments. Like we're fairly hardcore sports observers, if not fans, and if I don't care, and I don't know about your guys' level of interest. What does this do for the product?
I
Yeah,
don't think it
I think
cheapens it. Go ahead, Dakota.
no. Well, yeah, I was just gonna say it. I think it's interesting because this type of stuff is probably at the end of the day only truly for hardcore fans because most casual sports fans, if they're gonna tune into anything like this, there need to be stakes. Which is I think maybe the problem that like a lot of All Star games, especially the Major League Baseball All Star game, has run into, is that it was maybe never more interesting than when it was for the World Series home field advantage, but that was also ultimately the wrong thing for it to be. And with these types of things, there aren't really much. There's not really much at stake except for bragging rights and just the pure enjoyment of the sport. And ultimately, especially in today's sort of low attention span society, that's really the only people that are going to buy into it for those reasons are hardcore viewers of the sport. And so, whether or not I enjoy it or not, I just question the longevity of these kind of things because I doubt their ability to capture casual fans, which at the end of the day, it's a business and that's what they have to do.
I'm curious if they do continue to fail to capture casual fans, like if they'll keep doing it. Because my thing is, I don't think it's a waste of time, and I don't think it's a cheapening of the product. Like, I can, think about how much the NBA TV ratings decline gets discussed. Like, you can't knock the NBA for trying to find something to pull other people in when all we say is that the regular season's too long and no one cares about the regular season. That said, I have no idea who cares about the NBA in season tournament, for example. Like, I know teams didn't the Lakers like hang a banner for winning it or something? All I feel like I saw about was a team got mocked for actually celebrating they won the in season tournament. And it's like, my thing is like it's just a completely neutral thing. It's like maybe there's a person out there who like the in-season tournament is appointment viewing for them. Like I guess if you're maybe it pulls in like a Hawks fan in a way that it wouldn't for like, okay, your team probably isn't that good. Your team certainly won't win a title. Like maybe you can run into a decent enough stretch where you can get like something to show for it. Kind of like, I'm sure they're modeling this after like the FA Cup in England and tournaments like that, like domestic tournaments. Um, but as it relates to the Four Nations face off, TM, I think that if ever there's a sport that it might take hold for, maybe it's hockey, especially because fans for so long were pissed about NHL players not being able to go to the Olympics. That there does seem to be genuine interest among the top NHL players in taking part in this tournament. So like that's worth something. Um, you know, whether people will actually watch it, I don't know. But like there is, I think for hockey diehards, like there are lots of people who watch the World Juniors and things like that. Like that market is already there for something like this. So I would think you're probably going to pull in some more NHL fans that way. So to me, I think taking the international component kind of broadens it in a way that the NBA version does not rather. But I don't know if that's enough to make like a material difference in viewership where this becomes some massive trend or much awaited
Yeah,
tournament
I
all
think
the
the main
time.
issue with the Four Nations tournament, at least for me, is it's similar to what the issue had been with the Olympics with the best players not going, and it's that it's like Russia's not in this tournament, right? Isn't it just it's Sweden, Finland, Canada, and the U.S., right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's again, it doesn't mean it's not going to be great hockey and the best talent will win, but it's just one of the very best talent pools is not represented, so it's hard to buy in from the outset because it's almost like maybe I won't put an asterisk on it, but a lot of people will be like, "Wow, it was only 4 nations, so what does that really mean?" I just wonder if that's maybe part of what would turn people away until it becomes a bigger field. And one note on the NBA in-season tournament, I probably shouldn't even admit this, but the last time I cared about it is when I thought like home court was on the line. I thought like when I the first season that it was going on, I was watching it, and I think there was a game where the Celtics needed to win, or however the math needed to work for the Celtics to stay in, and I just like kind of being stupid thought that like if they won, they could still get home field or home court advantage, just even if they didn't get the number one seed. And then I realized that that wasn't what it was, and it was just for them to get more money. And I haven't watched any sort of game related to the NBA in-season tournament since, because I can't fathom why you'd care. Like, why would you watch just knowing that what's on the line is these guys getting like $500,000? I can't fathom like why you'd be interested in it other than just watching more basketball. I don't know. It's weird. I do like the dynamic of teams intentionally running up the score. Like it makes for an interesting element that you don't normally get. But other than that, I don't find much value in it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think I agree with you guys on the longevity of it, or the questionable longevity, because the two kind of comparisons that I can think of for it was an All-Star game, which you mentioned, and the other thing I kind of think was like a mini tournament is like things like the Maui Invitational, and those sorts of things that college hoops has. But the two problems I think with that are all-star games are inherently for casual fans, right? And I really kind of had this realization the last couple of years where like my daughter, who is getting into pro sports, she really wants to watch the all-star games, because it's where she can watch one game and get to know everybody that's important. So she can be like, oh, I didn't know that guy was on such and such team. Like, Julio Rodriguez was a perfect example. Like when he was, in the All-Star game last year, or whenever the last time he was healthy, that's a player that like you never see as a kid on the East Coast. But the problem from the reason why the NBA Cup and all that doesn't really compare to that though is because an All-Star game is one-stop shop. Like if you're a casual fan, I just need to log in one time, see one game, and I know what's going on. The NBA Cup is convoluted with the point differentials and all that kind of stuff that, like, if you're a casual fan and you're just trying to tune in to find this thing, it's a lot more gatekeepy than just a regular season game at that same time of year would be, and that stuff. And then on the absolute other end of the spectrum, like if you're a hardcore fan, like historically the reason that those sort of like invitational college basketball in season preseason tournaments have drawn a lot of attention is because, as a Temple fan, I usually can't watch every game. And so when your team is involved in those kind of like winter tournaments where every game is on ESPN2 or something like that, as a hardcore fan, you really want that. In the NBA, NHL, that doesn't exist. Like if you're a hardcore fan of the Florida Panthers and you live in Wisconsin, you get the NHL package and you can watch every game anyway. So like there's no additional benefit to having whether it would be like an in-season, equivalent of the NHL Cup, or a Four Nations face-off where you get to see all your favorite players. Like you can already watch as much hockey as you want, the World Juniors, like you mentioned. So it's like, okay, well, this is just an additional thing that I already get, of something that I already get.
So I will say I think that's a little different for the Four Nations thing, because it's like, when else are you going to see you might see Crosby and Marchand on a line together? Like the last time we saw that was 2016, like something like that. Like it's been that long. So I do think that's where it's like it's along the lines of an all-star game, but that's the type of reason I could see it pulling some people, especially because like the best players by and large are going. And because it's international, it mixes things up a little bit. I felt kind of the same way about the last iteration of the World Baseball Classic. Like, didn't necessarily get the absolute best players, like, could have done without Lance Lynn on Team USA and so on. But I think Tim Anderson was the starting shortstop on the team, but it was still compelling enough. And, everyone for a while talked about the Trout versus Otani thing for the final at bat. Like, I found that to be a genuinely compelling tournament. I'm also more of a baseball person, but I think that once it seemed like the players started taking it seriously, fans started taking it a little bit more seriously. So yeah, the NBA, I don't see anything additive to that. But Four Nations, the World Baseball Classic, like the All-Star game, you can kind of see the different layers there where it might pull someone in who otherwise wouldn't access it or watch it or whatever.
That's a good point, because once you get like the other cultures in, to me, the reason I love the World Baseball Classic is that you see the clash of like different, like you got Cuba where it's all just guys trying to mash home runs. You've got like Taiwan and Japan where it's all everyone's trying to just get to 3-2 and then smack a Texas leaguer. So I agree with that. And that's the challenge with like an NBA in-season tournament is you're just watching the same teams jack threes as usual.
And seeing players that either you haven't seen in a while, have never seen, or about to see, like watching Ilya Kovalchuk in the Olympics when he was playing over in Russia was really cool because you were reminded how great he was. Watching Masataka Yoshida in that World Baseball Classic before he played his first games for the Red Sox was an interesting preview.
And we thought he might actually be good.
Yeah, right.
Jury's still out there. I haven't given up.
I think, to your point, though, Ben, about the point differential stuff, I think the U.S. market has spoken, especially when it comes to their interest in soccer, that once you introduce the phrase the aggregate, they tune out. As soon as the aggregate comes into play, people stop caring. And my other note on this is I just want to give a shout out to the Big League Challenge. I think that deserves a place on the podium for best in-season, preseason, gimmick tournament things, whatever you want to call it, whatever your qualifiers are. I have a fondness for Big League Challenge, which was 2000 and 2001. I just remember Nomar competing, and I don't know. I liked the Big League Challenge. I still have a bobblehead for Nomar Nomar in his Big League Challenge jersey. So
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, you do. Come on, Big League Challenge 2000, 2001. It took place like right before or in the first week of spring training when they would have like a hitting tournament and like including a home run derby, and it ran in 2000 to 2001. You had like Rafi Palmeiro, I think, won it one year, and they wore like the blue jerseys, and it took place down in the spring venues. Don't remember that?
Do you remember this, Logan?
I don't remember this. No, I don't. If you're talking about a one-off event in spring training 25 years ago, no, I'm having a tough time pulling that.
Yeah.
I'm not
right,
denying that it happened.
Right,
I'm just denying that this automatically belongs in the conversation with the best like variations.
2000, 2001, I was like literally staying up to watch Baseball Tonight every single night, and like I don't recall this at all. It sounds like it would have been a lot of fun.
I'm reading a story. Wow, it's like the old ESPN.com from Sunday, February 11th in 2000, and it took place in Las Vegas. Jose Canseco warmed up for the start of spring training with some mammoth shots Sunday to beat Rafael Palmeiro in the finals of the 2000 Big League Challenge home run hitting contest. Chipper Jones was in it too, so was Andrew Jones. Yeah, Big League Challenge was sweet. And
those four guys could probably do that now and put it on DAZN. You know what I mean? Like that's what that has the feelings of now.
Yeah. Fubo Sports Network.